Welcome, everyone. In today's video, I'm sharing how to create beautiful handmade holiday cards using stencils. I'll walk you through my ink blending and using paste for added dimension and shine. All of my supplies will be listed down below in the video description. The stencil that I picked out today for my card project is the Festive Bow pattern, and this is a layering stencil. I also picked out Making Spirits Bright stamp set. Now, I know these products were actually available previously, but I just recently got them as part of this brand new release from Simon Says Stamp, and I was really excited to play with them. There is usually one sentiment set for the holidays that I get really drawn to, and I feel like I'm going to use over and over, and this set is definitely it. So the first thing I do is I have a piece of a 6x6 cardstock that I put repositionable tape on the back to secure it down to my work surface. Then I am placing the first layer of the stencil down over the top, and I'm going to hold that in place with some washi tape, or you can use some low tack tape. I'm going to go for more of a traditional color palette for this particular background, but I think this would be really fun to experiment with other color combinations. Now, the first color that I'm going to be using is Perfection. I'm going to pick up some of that ink, kind of tap off on my work surface, and then blend that over the top of the background. I try not to go too heavy handed with my blending brush because if you apply too much ink through your stencil, sometimes that can kind of pool up in the corner of your stencil and leave little marks. So if you start light handed, you'll get better results. Then I'm going to bring in the second layer of the stencil. This one is going to add the bow, and I am going to be using cherry ink. Now, all of these inks and the blending brushes are from Simon Says Stamp. Again, I'm just going to pick up that color, kind of tap off on my work surface, and bring that to the open areas of the stencil. Again, kind of starting really light handed so I don't get that pooling of ink. The next layer of the stencil, I am going to be using juniper. So this one's going to add some additional detail to our background. And you can see as this image starts coming together, it's creating a full pattern across our background. The juniper is a really nice kind of bluish green, a darker bluish green that works perfectly with this stencil. The last layer of the stencil is going to be adding the berries to our background. And instead of doing ink blending, I thought it would be nice to bring in some paste for a little dimension and shine. So I'm doing this with a bee sting lunar paste from Simon Hurley. I picked out some from the jar and I'm going to spread that all over the open areas. Now, I probably should have used a larger type of spatula to spread this across. This is actually a lot of paste on my stencil, but I did get all of the areas covered. After I carefully remove that, I do take this over to my sink and wash it off right away. What I really love about Lunar paste is it does not take a long time to dry. So I'm going to set that off on the side and work on my sentiment. Again, this was a set that was previously released, I believe, for Kathy Zilsey's class with Heidi Crowell from Simon Says Stamp. And I just recently got it. I absolutely love it. The fonts are beautiful. The sentiments are beautiful. I really love this Christmas one that has the little heart at the end. I'm stamping this on white cardstock using my Versafine ink and then using the coordinating die to die cut it out. I use the rest of that paper to die cut it out multiple times. And what this does is build dimension for my die cut. So they do call it stacking die cuts if you're not familiar with it. I add a liquid glue to the top of each of those plain ones that I die cut from white cardstock. And then I just pick it up, layer it together, and it builds the dimension nicely. It's pretty solid and thick. So you don't have to use as many layers if you don't want it to be popped up that much. I'm creating a side folding card base. So I'm scoring this at 4 1/4, and I am going to fold that in half and just reinforce that fold with my bone folder. So this is going to measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I'm going to add tape runner and add a plain piece of a white cardstock to the top. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I used Hammermill cardstock for my stencil background, and I want to keep my whites the same. Can white because whites can vary in shades, so I like to keep mine consistent. I'm going to trim my background down with my paper trimmer, and I usually start by getting off those open areas or those edges just to clean it up a little bit. And then I am going to trim this down. So I did start out at about 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, but then I think I trimmed my inner panel down to about 3 1/2 for the end result. That way it left me a nice white border on each side. This is actually a favorite card design for me. It's beautiful. It has a little bit of white space on the very outer edges, and then it gives me a place to have my stencil background as kind of the focal point. So I do go ahead and line that panel with foam tape so I can pop that up as well. And then I can add this to the front of my card project. I do add a lot of dimension to my cards, but that's because I mail in or I'm sorry, I hand out a lot of my Christmas cards to close family and friends. So I don't mind the extra layers. And then I add liquid glue to the back of my sentiment, and I'm going to place that up towards the top and about the center. Now, let me know if you struggle with this as well. I love this sentiment, but I struggle with, do I center the actual words or do I center it based off of the heart at the end, if you know what I mean? Anyway, here is my finished card project. I love that beautiful stencil background. It actually went together pretty quick. I will have all of my supplies linked down below in the video description and over on my blog if you're interested in any of these projects or pictures to save for future reference. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Here is another card project I think you might enjoy.